Good afternoon, class 11 bio students. Today we are concluding with the sixth video of the Diversity of Living World, chapter 1. Hope yesterday you all went through the study of major branches of biology, and I had also given you an assignment related to this. These are really interesting branches if you see them one by one. Anatomy is a study of our internal structure and systems. Biochemistry, which is the study of biological actions in relation to inorganic and organic chemicals in our body. Biogeography is a study where we study about the distribution patterns of organisms on the earth in time and space. Then biometrics deals with application of statistics for analyzing biological problems. Then cytology is the study of cell structure, its organelles and their individual functions. Ecology is the study of the interrelationships between organisms and their environment. Embryology is the study of development and growth and events leading to fertilization of egg and development of embryo. Endocrinology is the study of endocrine glands, their harmonic secretions and their actions on our body. Then entomology is the study of insects, which can be both useful and harmful insects. Then eugenics is a science which deals with factors concerning improvement of human race. Evolution is the study of origin of life and change in the heritable characteristics of biological populations over successive generations. Then we see exobiology, which is the study of possible life outside in space, which is outside the earth in space. Then genetics is the study of inheritance of heredity and variations in organisms. Then gerontology is the study of old age, the process of aging and the particular problems faced by old people. Then histology is the study of tissues and cells by microscopy. Then we see immunology is the study of resistance of organisms to various infections. Then limnobiology is the study of freshwater ponds, lakes and streams. Microbiology is the study of microorganisms. Molecular biology is the branch of biology that deals with the structure and functions of macromolecules, example proteins and nucleic acids essential to life. Then morphology is the study of form and body structure of living organisms. Paleontology is the study of fossils and their distribution in time. Phenology is the study of periodic phenomenon of organisms like bird migration or flowering time, etc. Then physiology is the study of functions of various organ systems of the organism. Then radiobiology is the study of effects of radiation on life and the organisms. Then taxonomy is the study of classification of organisms and their evolutionary relationships. We studied about importance of biological studies yesterday. Now, biology is a science of exceptions. Here we will see some examples to show that biology is science of exceptions. Example, all of the mammals, they have mature RBCs. Now these RBCs, they are without nucleus at their mature stage, whereas we know that all cells have nucleus. But this is exception. Second example is roots in mangroves are negatively geotropic. What are mangrove plants? They are plants which have roots which can't breathe in swamps or marshy areas, and they come up against gravity above the swamp to breathe. So they are anti-geotropic. Then we see neoteny. Neoteny is another example in American salamander. Its larva reproduces in spite of retaining its larval forms without becoming an adult. Then another example of biology as signs of exception is DNA is genetic material, but in plant viruses, tobacco mosaic viruses, RNA, ribonucleic acid is genetic material. Then another example of exception is reptiles have 3-chambered heart, but some of them like crocodile and alligators have 4-chambered heart. Then another example of biology has exceptions is birds never excrete urine to save water, and they also reduce their weight. Then we see another exception. Certain mammals like duck-billed platypus and spiny anteaters, although they are mammals, they are oviparous. That means they are egg-laying mammals. Then we see dolphins are viviparous. That is, they produce living young instead of eggs from within the body. Then we see birds can fly, but kiwi and ostrich are flightless. Another exception is desert kangaroo. Rat never drinks water but uses metabolic water created inside their bodies by oxidizing energy containing substances in their food. They produce water, and desert kangaroo rats otherwise never drink water. They produce it from their food. There are important contributions to biology done by scientists before the 20th century. Now we will see some examples of these scientists. Like Aristotle was a Greek philosopher from 384 to 322 BC, whose Scala Naturae, or which is translated as ladder of nature theories, places all living things in a hierarchy with simplest forms at bottom and human beings right at the top. Robert Hooke, English physiologist from 1625 to 1703, wrote a book, Micrographica. 1665, he described tiny, regularly shaped compartments that make up the tissues of cork. These are sliced cork tissues, and what he did was he called these rooms as compartments that make up the tissue of cork and other plants, and was first to use the term cell for these rooms that he could see. Then another scientist we can see is Antonio van Leeuwenhoek. He was a Dutch naturalist and inventor of the first microscope in 1632 to 1723, wherein he worked. In 1676, he was the first to observe living single-celled organisms under microscope. You can see his primitive microscope here. Then we see Carolus Linnaeus was a Swedish biologist from 1707 to 1778 who developed the binomial system of naming of organisms, or two-name system for the naming of organisms, and also their classification. Then we come to another scientist, Jean-Baptiste Lamarck, about whom you studied in evolution in class 10th. French naturalist from 1744 to 1829. He proposed the theory of evolution and perfected through the inheritance of acquired characters. You saw this in class 10th in the chapter of evolution. Then there was another scientist, Georges Cuvier. He was a French naturalist from 1769 to 1832. He lived. He studied fossils and gave catastrophism theory. That means that through catastrophe, organisms, they continue and they bring variations and changes in their life. And many of them are also finished or removed from the face of this earth. Then we come to Thomas Malthus. He was an English economist from 1776 to 1834. He lived. He said that human populations grow faster than food supply, and he published his famous essay Principles of Population in 1798. He supported evolution by natural selection. Then we come to Charles Lyell, a British geologist from 1797 to 1825. The book he wrote was Principles of Geology, Natural Forces Producing Continuous Change Contributed to Evolution Theory of Natural Selection. So he was also one of the supporters of evolution theory of natural selection. Then we come to two scientists, we come to Matthias Schleiden and Theodor Schwann. Matthias Schleiden was a German botanist who lived between 1804 to 1881, and Theodor Schwann was a German physiologist and zoologist who lived between 1810 to 1882. So we see both of them, they stated the cell theory. Matthias Schleiden gave this term cell theory in 1838, whereas Theodor Schwann gave it in 1839. Then we come to Charles Robert Darwin. He was an English naturalist from 1809 to 1882. He studied animal diversity and he traveled long distances on a ship. Can you see the ship here? This ship was called HMS Beagle. From 1831 to 1836, he researched on various islands near South America about the animal diversity. And he wrote the book Origin of Species by means of natural selection, 1859. Then we come across another scientist, Rudolf Virchow. He was a German pathologist and anthropologist from 1821 to 1902, who in 1858 stated that all cells present now came from pre-existing cells. Then we see another scientist who is very important, about which you had studied last year also in class 10th, is Gregor Johann Mendel, an Australian monk. He was a monk in a monastery, and from 1822 to 1884 he lived, and he did his experiments on common garden pea, and he kept on doing these experiments for 20 generations on this pea and discovered basic principles of inheritance. He took 7 characteristics of these peas and he researched on those. Then we see Alfred Russel Wallace was also a scientist. He was an English naturalist from 1823 to 1913, who was a core developer of the theory of evolution by natural selection. Then we see that biology is used for great purposes, but sometimes biology is misused also. Let us see a few examples of how biology is misused. We should not misuse biological techniques. For example, amniocentesis is a technique used to diagnose fetal or a child when is in the mother's womb, the fetal abnormalities by drawing a sample of amniotic fluid by a hypodermic needle inserted through the mother's abdomen into the uterus. The amniotic fluid contains cells and molecules shed by fetus. Cultured in laboratory, these cells can reveal several types of defects like Down syndrome, Mongolism, spina bifida, which is a disease of exposed spinal cord and nerves, and muscular dystrophy. So these problems can be found out by studying the amniotic fluid. And also we see a second example, women over the age of 35 years are recommended amniocentesis by doctors, as their babies at this ripe age are most likely to suffer from birth defects. But what is the misuse of the amniotic fluid? That several parents, they find out if it is a female fetus, they tell the doctor to abort the fetus or kill the fetus in mother's womb. So we see that such misuse of biological techniques should not be made. Another one is bioweapons. Biological techniques are being misused to produce improved variety of infective agents for using them as bioweapons. For example, anthrax is an acute infectious disease. This was caused by spore formation. Bacterium Bacillus anthracis. These spores can be stored for many decades and can be released on the enemy country area to spread anthrax disease as an endemic or an epidemic. So we should not use biology as a wrong weapon against things, against organisms created by God. Let us look at biodiversity, the living organisms that adorn the earth or which are there on the face of the earth. They show vast array of diversity in their form and mode of life. The well-being and survival of human beings are dependent on millions of species of plants, animals, and microbes. Another good thing about biodiversity is that economically some species, they provide food, fuel, shelter, and clothing to us. A third good thing about the use of biodiversity is that green plants or autotrophs have remarkable power of capturing the inexhaustible energy of the sun to synthesize organic compounds, which are vital for existence of all the life on this earth. The green plants also produce oxygen for us. Then the fourth use of biodiversity is that plants stabilize soil, they conserve moisture and preserve a varying or greatly fluctuating climate. Then we also see that there are three types of biodiversity. Biodiversity can be defined as the sum total of species richness, that is the number of species of plants, animals, and microorganisms inhabiting in a given habitat. The three types of biodiversity are genetic biodiversity. The diversity refers to the variation of genes within species. Example, rice, varied kind of rice are used in India, mango varieties are used in India. So this genetic diversity is a boon to people of India. Then second type of biodiversity is species. Species diversity refers to the variety of species within a region which control the environment of that region and are also for the sustenance of the environment of that region. Then the third biodiversity we see is ecosystem diversity, which refers to the different landforms, each of which supports different and specific vegetation. We see biodiversity in India is of varied kind. It's a wide range of climatic conditions, from the torrid to the Arctic. We see India is rich and varied in its vegetation. We see that there are several kind of plants till date. Above 47,000 plant species are described from India, including 15,000 flowering plants. And we see that in this 35% is endemic and has so far not been reported. Then we see about the Indian fauna, the animals. About 33% of the Indian fauna, they number about 89,451 species, with maximum number of insect species in India. Besides this, India is rich in marine biodiversity among the coastline of 7,500 kilometers, supporting the most productive ecosystems such as mangroves, coral reefs, estuaries, lagoons, and backwaters. So we studied very interesting things about the diversity in our land. With this, we come to conclude this chapter, and then from next time we will start the second chapter, which is the systematics and the 5 kingdoms of life. So children, wish you all the best. Have a good day. Thank you.